Hello, my name is Hamdullah Mohib and I'll be covering Introduction to C++. This course is aimed at people who want to learn how to program. We'll be going through some basic skills that are required to program in C++. We'll start with a very simple program and then go all the way up to object-oriented programming, which we will cover in more details. The topics we will be covering in this lecture series is the first one. Will obviously start with the introduction to C++. Where we will learn how to write a simple program, get an input, and how to get our output out to a screen. We learn about variables and data structures. Then we move on to learning about flow and control. So where we will learn about loops and the control structures that we need to get what we want from the code. And we'll also learn about functions, so how we reuse the same code. If we're doing the same thing over and over again, we use the same code once. I'll move on to talk about arrays and strings. So arrays is large number of the same thing saved under one entity, and then strings, which are characters, but an array of characters. And we'll move on to talk about pointers, which gives us the freedom to point to a memory location, whether it's a variable address or a data by itself. And in preparation for our object-oriented programming lectures, we'll talk about data structures first, user-defined data structures. So we'll learn how to create classes and constructs, and then we'll talk about object-oriented programming itself. That's where programming becomes more interesting, because our code can be reused in multiple ways and becomes it has more of a personality, and we'll get to that stage. And once we have covered the object-oriented programming and had a few programs created, we'll talk about memory management, because it is very important that a program doesn't use up too much memory, and it can then be used on devices, on smaller devices, and even if it's especially a large program and memory is not handled very well, it can crash a computer and may not be able to run it as smoothly as you would want it to be. So one of the good things about C++ is that it allows you that control to manage your memory while programming. We will talk about a few advanced topics, such as execution, handling exceptions and a few others like that. So we'll get to it once we have covered the rest of this course. I hope you will stay with us and learn programming as we go along. We'll try to keep these lectures short and sweet, so that you can learn each day, every week, just a small bit of it. So we'll divide up the topics into small chunks of manageable information that you can follow. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next week with our first lecture, Introduction to C++.